on July 19th of this year, we will get Iggy Azalea's second studio album. It's been a long time coming. Lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of drama, lots of scandals, and as we were just discussing earlier, it's important now to have that conversation. Can we listen to this album? Can we enjoy Iggy's music? Can we stan Iggy Azalea? Let's dive into it. So Azalea's been in the industry for a while. She moved to Miami in 2006. So her career's been here. She's been in America for a while. She's been popping, making lots of music. But the controversy surrounding Azalea really starts in 2011. She had a song where she basically refers to herself as a slave master. She was referencing a Kendrick Lamar track that had to do with slavery, and as a white woman talking about being a slave master is levels of problematic. You are very privileged from the color of your skin, and you can't say things like that in even a sarcastic or joking way. She, was trying to say it was a misinterpretation, and she kind of did apologize for it, but it was not a good apology, and that was kind of the beginning of her scandals. So a year later, she was on the XXL freshman class cover, first female to do it, so props to her, and that started controversy. But what bothered people was a lot of her fans thought she was African American and from Atlanta, not a white woman from Australia. And that's the problem, is not that she's not African American, but the problem was that she was using vernacular and style that was very heavily associated with African American culture, and it definitely was an example of cultural appropriation. Now, these things would kind of go unregarded by the masses, and in 2014, to blow up, Fancy would be like the song of the summer, quite literally, and we'd have the very highly successful subsequent song Black Widow. Her career was really doing well, but then what happened? 2015 Grammys were a bust. A lot of her enemies started firing back at her successfully. Nicki Minaj, Azalea Banks. She was under attack. Her label seemed to get sick of her, and by 2015, 2016, her attempts at a comeback were failing. Digital Distortion, her second album, was scrapped. Survive the Summer, her second album, was scrapped and turned into an EP. She eventually quit, not was dropped, she eventually quit her label and switched to Empire, and is now her own label, basically, and we finally are getting an album. So it's been a lot of stuff. In between this, though, was the real kicker, the real reason she got canceled, and that was the racist tweets. These tweets were bad. I mean, N-word bad. We were talking about stereotyping bad. And there were transphobic comments. There was homophobia involved. She actually had to cancel Pittsburgh Pride in 2015 for that reason. It felt like her star was basically done. It was a black hole. She was over. And for good reason. She had been racist. She was appropriating cultures, and her responses were simply, I have to do it to stay in the industry. There was nothing consistent. She was not winning anymore. She was losing, and it seemed like she deserved it. But now that we have another album, it's definitely worth considering. Has she grown? Has she apologized? And so, yes, she has apologized. She has said, she did not necessarily try to offend anyone, and she was sorry for the slave master reference in her initial lyrics. So I guess that clears up some of the conversation. She has also apologized for using the N-word. That clears up some of the conversation. But what about cultural appropriation? Well, in 2018, Azalea did an interesting interview at GQ, and she talked about how she has a lot of trauma from her childhood. Now, this is a card celebrities love to play, where it's, I've been through something, so that excuse of my behavior. And I think her comments actually were a little bit better than that. She talked about how she understands that she comes from a place of privilege, but because she's struggled so much, it's hard for her to totally accept the privilege that she has. At least that's how I interpreted her response. So I definitely think that shows some growth. I don't think it was simply damage control, because by 2018 there was too much damage to repair. She was never going to be a huge mainstream success. If you don't believe me, her EP debuted at 144 on the Billboard Hot 200, so basically it was irrelevant. But anyway, not to hate on her, kind of. What happened after that, though, and I think the moment where I really feel like she showed the most growth was when Halsey, it's actually a year before, 2017, said some kind of mean things about Azalea in an interview, and Iggy's response was really, really, really nice. She basically said, she's young, and I hope you become less judgmental. And for someone who is known for getting into fights on Twitter, I think Iggy showed that she has really come full circle. So At this point, we've addressed the racism, we've addressed the cultural appropriation, we've addressed the Twitter fights she was having earlier in her career. Also, she has really used her campaign to feature LGBTQ artists. A lot of her shows are now being opened by drag queens. She's featured drag queens in her videos. She just performed at Chicago Pride. So she's really catering and featuring her LGBTQ fan base. And I think all of that shows a lot of growth, a lot of maturity. She's a lot older now. She's, I think, coming into her career. She's been through a lot. Her husband, her fiance cheated on her. It was a messy few years. And I think In My Defense is kind of a response to everything she's been through. The music so far has been really good. I am personally excited for this album. And I think I can definitely say I don't hate Iggy Azalea. I think no one should hate her. She's been through a lot. She's made mistakes, but she's learned from them. She's grown from them. And I think as a result of all of those things, I can confidently say that we can stand Iggy Azalea. You might have to be a little careful, just in case. You can never tell. But I think for the most part, we can stand Iggy Azalea.